clear of the closing doors, please.
All right, here we go. Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I am your host. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into SST on Apple Podcast app, Spotify, and on YouTube. We're here today to talk about one thing and one thing only, and that's Grimace. Of course, we have to talk about the New York Mets and this Grimace run, which is just unbelievable. But we're not talking about just one thing. We're also going to touch on a big-time opportunity for two New York Yankees to make history. And that's not hyperbolic. I poured over the numbers, and there's a chance for Aaron Judge and Juan Soto to do something that hasn't been done in well over 30 years. Now, the research took me quite a while to go back and cross-reference all the different things, so I don't know if it ever happened. But frankly, I didn't have time to look through 100 years of baseball history, so I started at 1994, and I found some very interesting stats, some great stuff for Juan Soto and Aaron Judge to make history. So stay tuned for that. But first, we got to start with these New York Mets, who are now on a 7-game win streak. The Grimace era is real. We've seen what's been happening with this team, with this offense, with this bullpen starting to put things together. And now when I did a podcast just a week or two ago talking about the New York Mets, one of my biggest things, and I also did this on social media, was this team was not greater than the sum of its parts. It wasn't equal to the sum of its parts. It was less than the sum of its parts, which is obviously something you don't often say when you're talking about sports analogies and sports phrases and things like that. Usually you talk about a team where the sum is, or the sum is greater, the whole, it's my phrase and I can't even get it right. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's something we hear about a lot. When you have a bunch of good role players, you got guys who know their role and excel in what they're supposed to be good at, right? When you have the right pieces in the pen, when you have bottom of the order guys who can get on base or hit for power or hit clutch hits, when you have the stars who are putting up star numbers. That wasn't happening for the New York Mets. In fact, it was the opposite. You looked up and down the lineup and you saw Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo and Pete Alonso and Starling Marte and at some point JD Martinez, and you said, this guy's a good player. That guy's a good player. This guy's a really good player. Why do they stink? You look through the bullpen and you say, that guy has some decent numbers. That guy has some okay numbers. Why do they stink? This team equally has been blowing games like no other, where they have some of the most blown losses, blown leads in the MLB. They also have some of the most comeback, walk-off type victories in the MLB. This team's been an anomaly. They've been everything but good until recently. They've been interesting. They've been bad. They've been embarrassing. They've been impressive, but they haven't been consistently good this entire season. But now, with the return of JD Martinez, who now officially has a sample size and has been hitting really well, has been the most successful hitter on the Mets since he returned, and the return of Francisco Alvarez, who, if you've seen the numbers, they are 19-1 with Francisco Alvarez in the lineup in his last 20 games. This team is an above 500 team with Francisco Alvarez in the lineup. Now, is that because he's hitting 350 with 25 jacks already? No. He's been hitting okay. He's been hitting much better of late since he returned, but there's clearly something that he does to the lineup, to the offense, and to the defense for the pitching staff that helps make this team better. And it's something Cody O'Connor pointed out on our last podcast, where he spoke about what he does for the pitching staff and how important it is for him to get back. And it has been obvious. It's been so clear since he returned that this team makes more sense with him. Now, just think about the lineup that the New York Mets throw out there just last night. So this podcast is coming out on Wednesday. And on Tuesday night, in a great comeback victory against the Texas Rangers, the Mets put out a lineup here that really felt like the real thing. It felt like the complete Mets lineup that when we talked about this team from a preview perspective, you said this is an offense that's a strength. This offense should be good enough to help carry the pitching staff to a competent level, to a place where they're competing for a wild card. And obviously the beginning of the season did not go as planned, but here we are now, after this great stretch where they're now 8 out of 10 and even playing better than that past the most recent 10 games. And this offense makes sense. And this lineup looks real. When this lineup's out there, you can feel confident now. And you realize that there's strength in numbers all of a sudden with the New York Mets lineup. Obviously, since Francisco Lindor hit the leadoff spot, it's been a different team. He's been a different player. His numbers are off the charts since that point. So with Lindor at leadoff, Brandon Nimmo batting second, who has been up and down, but better of late. JD Martinez, who's been pretty damn good since he came back from injury. Pete Alonso in the cleanup spot. Marte, who's been on a tear. Mark Vientos, who's been on a tear since he came back up. And then Francisco Alvarez in the 7 spot. That changes the entire dynamic of this lineup when you have a guy with his pop, with his ability to work good at bats in the 7 spot after Marte, after Vientos, and before McNeil and Harrison Bader. That is a real lineup, people. All of a sudden, when you look at Jeff McNeil, who's been struggling for the most part this entire season, and you look at him in the 8 slot, who's starting to put some better at-bats together, to put some better contact on the ball, and he's sitting 8-9 in front of Bader, that makes this offense incredibly different and incredibly more effective. Now, I did this on the pod a couple weeks ago. When you looked at the Mets team, and again, the whole is less than the sum of its parts, or at least it's been for most of this season. You looked at some guys and said, okay, like, listen, this is not terrible. This is okay. This guy's numbers are okay. It's okay. It's okay. Now, all of a sudden, we're looking at a team that's not okay anymore. They're good. They're all playing to the back of their baseball cards or better. And that's why I think it's important to note, even with this epic Grimace run, with this 7-game win streak where they're clearly playing above their heads, I don't think it's fool's gold. I don't think this is something that's not sustainable, because it's not like you're looking at guys up and down the lineup over the last 2 weeks who are batting 500 or batting 450. You got guys who are hitting consistently up and down the lineup. You got Brandon Nimmo over his last 11 games, 350 average. He's pretty much the highest one there because he's been on a tear. He hasn't been hitting for a ton of power, but you don't necessarily need him to. He has a couple bombs. He has some clutch hits. He has a couple of times he's been walked like he does. It's what Brandon Nimmo does. The on-base percentage over 400. Pete Alonso, not exactly tearing the ball off just yet, but hitting clutch moments, getting on base. He's at 286. Francisco Lindor, who's been over 300 since he joined that leadoff spot, he's batting over 280 over the last 12 games for him, hitting 3 home runs and 5 doubles, stealing a couple bags here and there. I mean, and JD Martinez has been as consistent as anyone. This guy is driving the ball to right center, and he's inspiring this team to have that better approach. It's been impressive. And I remember in the preseason listening to a podcast with Daniel Murphy on there, and Daniel Murphy spoke about what JD Martinez could mean to this team. And he referenced when Michael Kadire, who might come up later, he probably won't actually, but he technically was in the research for this Yankees section. But Michael Kadire was on the Mets for a hot second. Did he change the team because how well he was hitting the ball? No. JD Martinez has more to offer than him, but Daniel Murphy referenced him as a professional hitter who helped really put everybody in the right mindset, the right attitude, the right approach. And watching JD Martinez take at-bats so consistently, working walks, hitting the ball to right center, driving the ball with a couple home runs over the last 2 weeks, 12 RBIs over his last 12 games, it's changed the whole dynamic. And finally, with the other guys around him getting up to water level, getting up to sea level, his consistency is proving worthy now, right? For a while when this team wasn't hitting and he was out here after his injury playing pretty well individually, it just didn't matter. Alonso wasn't on base. Nimmo wasn't on base. Before Lindor moved to the leadoff spot, he wasn't doing anything. So JD's productivity just didn't matter. And now with the balance of this lineup, it just makes more sense. Even with the others, right? We use the word others in basketball a lot. And I would consider Harrison Bader and other, Luis Torrens, who's come in and done some wonderful stuff. Obviously, with his multi-home run game kind of being the bulk of it there. Jose Iglesias just being a professional hitter, putting the bat on the ball, getting on base, doing what he does. All the productivity of Lindor, Martinez, Vientos, Alonso, Nimmo, it all matters again. It all makes sense again. And for a long time in this season, we thought this team was helpless. We thought this team didn't make sense. But all along, it was there. And I saw my buddy from the fan, WFAN, Paul Rosenberg, he tweeted this out, and he was being a little bit more relaxed in his approach from the Grimace era run for the New York Mets. And I thought it was a good point Not that I fully agree with it, but it's a worthy point. He was saying, listen, were the Mets as bad as they were earlier? No. Are they as good as they are now? No. So everyone should relax. He was kind of going that route. And to that, I understand what he's saying. And to that, I agree. What I would say is I think they're a little bit closer to where they are now than they were when they were losing, 15 games under 500. We're talking about a team that was 23 and 35. And now we're talking about a team that's sitting here 2 games under 500, real close to that third wild card spot, looking like a team that should compete for a wild card opportunity. Everything has come together for this team. And that's just talking about the offense here. And now all these guys who were relied upon to be impactful are now not relied upon anymore. What you get from DJ Stewart and Tyrone Taylor is icing on the cake. What you get from Torrens is icing on the cake. Alvarez is back. JD Martinez is cooking. Starling Marte looks healthy and is driving the crap out of the ball. Harrison Bader has earned his right to be the everyday center fielder for all the defensive stuff that he does and for the way he's swinging the bat. He has a spark mentality to himself where he does have that knack to be aggressive in the right spots. Like, he's not the best hitter. He's not going to light the world on fire. But right now, when everyone else is doing their job, when you do have Lindor raising his batting average by 50 points over the last month, and Pete Alonso driving the ball again, hitting clutch hits, the Harrison Bader effect is more important. It makes more sense. When those main guys are not successful and you turn to Harrison Bader for that one at bat where you finally get a couple guys on base, yeah, you're not feeling great about it. But guess what? When you have that at bat for Harrison Bader or Tyrone Taylor or DJ Stewart or even Mark Vientos, who I know has been incredibly hot, but still, when you have those at bats now, you feel like it's more of a luxury than a necessity. And that changes the balance of an entire offense. That changes the balance of an entire game. Because for a long time, when the Mets got a lead, and it was because of a home run or one good inning or whatever it was, you were nervous about the pen. Well, now with the way this offense is playing, you have faith that they can put together good innings consistently, good at-bats consistently. Now, we can joke about the Grimace stuff. It's hysterical. I love it. I can't get enough of some of these stupid memes on the internet that are just fun, right? We can joke about it, but the vibes are immaculate. This team is playing much better baseball. And obviously winning solves everything and makes everything feel better. But at this point in time, as I thought before the season, and then quickly we all did not believe anymore, we look at this team as a competent, competitive baseball team. The streak's going to come to an end. The Grimace memes will stop. The Grimace history will go down in the books. But at the end of the day, the 2024 Mets have a roster that now makes sense again, that are playing to the back of their baseball cards, that are playing complementary baseball. And that changes the entire structure, feel, and energy around this entire roster. Now, is this team great? Is this team going to the playoffs 100%? Obviously not. There's a lot of work to be done. All this talk a few weeks ago about who they were going to sell and when they were going to sell them, and if they were going to sell Alonso, going to sell Nimmo, going to sell JD Martinez, all these questions were easily answered by Mets fans and non-Mets fans alike 2 weeks ago. Most people said, you got to blow it up. You got to make it happen. This team's not going anywhere. Now, where is this team going? In my opinion, and I said this on the fan last week, and I said this on the podcast, I want to see this team try to compete. I want to see this team get as close to the deadline before they make any brash decisions. Because frankly, I think they could sell one piece or two and still compete. Frankly, I believe they could actually make a one-for-one type of move that may leave someone or send someone out and bring someone in that might fill a different role for them. Clearly, the bullpen is still a question mark. It looks better. Diaz coming back from this little mini injury stint that he had and looking good is a huge win. Diaz looking good is enormous. If you think about those, it was a big number a couple weeks ago. I don't know if the numbers changed, but it was 6 of these blown leads, like in a short amount of time. If you think about half of those, just half, right? Close the door on 2 of the 6. And we're talking about a team that's over 500. And we're talking about a team that's not fighting with 8 teams for the third wild card spot, but we're talking about a team that is the third wild card right now. Baseball is a weird game. Baseball is a long season. We know this. It's important not to overreact, but it's important to understand what you have on your plate. And right now, the Mets have an opportunity on theirs to continue playing good baseball with a softer schedule throughout the rest of this season relative to the rest of the league. I think they're lower third on strength of schedule, which is good for them. And they have to keep winning games they're supposed to win. They're not going to win them all. The Grimace streak will end. The memes will slow down. And that's okay. Because when you look at this team now, and the starting pitching aside for the moment, it makes sense again. With Diaz closing games consistently, putting Reed Garrett, Diekman, and Reed Foley back in their spots, and Severino slowed down a little bit here and there. You know, the starting rotation obviously has issues. Tyler McGill looking pretty good on his way back here, but they got issues. They got question marks for sure. But there's an opportunity at hand for this team to be competitive again. And right now, I want to see nothing else but a competitive baseball team. And we'll talk about the trade deadline when we get closer. Because at this point in time, yeah, there might be a trade in order. They might not be buyers, but there's not going to be a wholesale in Queens. This team should compete. This team should hold on to Pete Alonso. This team should hold on to Brandon Nimmo. And I believe JD Martinez and play this thing out. And that's not overreaction from the last 7 games of the Grimace era. All right, the Mets, baby. What's up? Pretty crazy stuff, though. If you really think about it with this Mets team right now, you know, if you look at where they were at just a few weeks ago and, you know, all these freaking teams that were in front of them, I mean, it's still a mishmash over here in the National League. It's insane. Like the entire National League is under 500. It's really insane. As we sit currently in the wild card standings, the Braves are 40-31. So they're streets ahead of everyone else in the wild card spot. Because the second place team is the Cardinals. They're 36-36. Diamondbacks 36-37. Giants 36-38. The Mets and the Washington Nationals 35-37. If you don't think the Mets are competing with the likes of the Nationals, Padres, Giants, Diamondbacks, and Cardinals, I don't know what to tell you. I think they are. I think they are just as good, if not better, than any of the teams that I mentioned there. The Braves are clearly ahead, even without Acuna. They're still just better. It is what it is, even though they've been playing mediocre baseball lately. The Mets can compete with any of these teams. Their lineup has always been better than what it was in the doldrums of these first 2 months of the season. Always been. I mean, it was weird to watch this team be so bad. I literally go check the socials at Subway Sports Talk. I put out the whole video about the Mets just 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. What is wrong with this team? They find new ways to lose every night. It's insane how bad they are. They should be better. They have the pieces to be better. Well, guess what? They're better now. And they're playing like they should be playing. I want to see this thing through. Subway Sports Talk, Pete Kennedy, right here, talking some baseball. It's good to talk baseball. Didn't do a full finals recap there. Maybe I'll throw some thoughts in at the end. But right now, I want to talk about something that's very interesting to me because there's an opportunity for the New York Yankees stars in Aaron Judge and Juan Soto to make history. And that's not an exaggeration. That's not something that I'm trying to say to get the people interested and worked up, but it's truly possible for those two to do something that I haven't seen done in the last 30 years because I checked every single year on the Baseball Reference website. Every year for 30 years, I checked the best duos, the best teammates of any offense over the last 30 years, 1994 up until current day. And right now, Juan Soto and Aaron Judge are doing something that never been done in those past 30 years. And my guess, it wasn't done before that. But again, I wasn't going through 100 years, 100 years of Baseball Reference pages. 30 was enough for me. So what is it? Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, as we sit here today on June 19th, Wednesday, are ranked number 1 and number 2 in OPS in the entire MLB. Aaron Judge, a 1.1. Juan Soto, a 1.02. Insane. What does that mean? So let's go through the entire process here and why I did this the way I did this. OPS to me, and to a lot of people out there, is the most efficient way to see how successful someone is being currently. It takes into account a lot of things. OPS, if you don't know what it is, let's do it. Just do it quickly, right? On base plus slugging percentage. So I think we all know what on base percentage is. We have those benchmarks of what a good on base percentage is. We know what a good batting average is, right? Like, and I think this is a thing still that people are getting used to in the MLB, because it's like, it's a little tricky, right? We've been ingrained for 100 years. If you're batting 300, damn good batting average. If your on base percentage is 400, wow, damn good on base percentage. If your on base percentage is about 100 points higher than your batting average, that's where it should be. That means you're having a good approach. You're getting walked. You're getting on base. You're doing what you should be doing. Even if your batting average might be a little bit lower, you're still accomplishing a lot of what you should be accomplishing, right? So what does OPS bring into the table? That's slugging percentage, right? So if you're not exactly familiar with slugging percentage, and hopefully you are, I'll just say it quickly. Slugging percentage, just think about it like this. It's total bases instead of just hits, right? So that's exactly what it is. It's a double counts for 2, a triple 3, home run 4, right? Slugging percentage shows how well you're driving the ball and hitting for power and hitting the ball more so than just singles. Like, for example, like Ichiro, always batted above 300. My dude was just a shoo-in, a lock. I believe I saw a stat recently that after his like second week of playing in the MLB, he got his batting average above 300, and it never went below 300 for his career ever again. Incredible. However, Ichiro wasn't walking that much. His on-base percentage wasn't usually 100 points higher than his batting average, and he was hitting a lot of singles, right? So his slugging percentage was never incredibly impressive either. But off the top of your head, if you tell yourself what's a good slugging percentage, do you know? Is it 500? Is it 550, 600, 700? Is that real? Is that realistic? Is that possible? Well, that's where it gets tricky, and that's why OPS, even though it's so encompassing and telling you such a good story about what a player's been doing, it's not always easy to just know. Like, I'm going to say a number to you right now, and you're going to say, is that good or bad? You might not even know. 846. Is that good? I don't know. Do you know? Well, it would get you 19th right now in the MLB for OPS. That's pretty damn good. 846, right? Let's say 850 to call it even. That would get you at 18th in the MLB for OPS right now in 2024, okay? So that right there, 850, is a damn good number. You're top 20 in the league. We love to see that. So if you're even a 750, if you're in the 750 range, that's Gavin Sheets or Andrew McCutchen in 2024 right now. 750 on base plus slugging percentage. That's just over 60th in the MLB. Not a bad number. That's actually, well, that's above average still, right? Because if you look at OPS plus, and again, I'm getting in the weeds here a little bit, but I feel like this part of the story is important enough to say it. If you look at OPS plus, it tells you about the average player. So OPS plus takes your OPS, weights it out amongst the rest of the league. And if you're 100 OPS plus, that means you're average, right? So 750 OPS, which like Brandon Nimmo and Starling Marte are right in that range, 756, 759. They're in an OPS plus of 122, which means they're above average. 100 OPS plus is average. They're 122. That's pretty dang good. We like that. You like to see a 120 OPS plus. That means you're above average hitter. Okay. So now we just talked about 850. That puts you in the top 20. What about 900? That gets you near the top 10. Bryce Harper right now is a 910 OPS. That has him at a 158 OPS plus. Damn good. That's top 10. Bryce Harper's 10th in the league in OPS. That means he's batting 282, but his on-base percentage is 390. It means he's getting walked a lot. He has a good approach. He has that on-base percentage more than 100 points higher. He also has a good number of home runs and doubles. 14 doubles, 15 home runs. That puts his slugging percentage up above 500. Combine those things, 910. Boom. Beautiful. Bryce Harper's a beast. We know that. That's great. And OPS is not one of these advanced analytic stats that is a little bit weird to understand. And when you look at the glossary, there's 14 different factors that get added up to make a WAR or some other, WRC plus thing that is a little bit more confusing. This is just a straight up statistic, and it don't lie. You look at this number every year, and the best hitters in baseball are in this list. Aaron Judge, number 1. Just said it before. He's 1.1. That's incredible. Incredible. Juan Soto, number 2, 1.0. 1.02 to be specific. Marcell Ozuna, 1.003. Those are the only 3 players in the MLB to be over the 1.0, over 1,000, we'll call it. That's incredible, right? 3 players in the entire MLB over 1,000 OPS. 2 of them are on the Yankees. And this is where I now use my long-winded way to get into the possible history that these 2 Yankee stars can make. And of course, I must say this, Aaron Judge did get hit in the hand yesterday. X-ray's negative, so hopefully that doesn't affect this chase for history. But I'm going to go back to 1994 and run through some of the things I found interesting about this. And the reason I went to 1994, not just because I was born in that year, but 30 years, mid-90s, the steroid era really came to fruition, and these guys are hitting bombs, and the home run counts are consistently over 40 and 50, and then 60, and then we know 70 for big old Barry Bonds, right? What did that mean for OPS across the league? Well, there actually is a great read of what the steroid era did to OPSs across the league. And that is what makes this even more impressive for what Aaron Judge and Juan Soto were doing. So in 1994, there were 9 players in the MLB who had a OPS of 1,000 or higher. 9 players. The leader that year was Frank Thomas, 1.217. Beast. His teammate with the highest OPS was Julio Franco. Shout out Julio Franco. Guy was a GOAT playing until like 2012 or something like that. He had a 0.916. That combines for a 2.1. That's great. That's what I'm getting into here. So take that little frame right there because we're trying to find the best teammates, the best hitting teammates in the past 30 years. I'll just say of all time for argument's sake, even though we know that's not true. Shout out Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. I'm sure their OPSs were ridiculous. So Frank Thomas in 1994 was number 1, 1.217. Ridiculous. His best teammate was ranked 27th, though. Still puts them at a 2.1. Incredible stuff. You go into the 94 season, 9 players with a, with an OPS of 1,000 or higher. Not one set of teammates were both over 1,000 out of 9 players. The other great standout there, Albert Bell. What a beast. The guy gets on the list a couple years in a row. He was 3rd in the league, 1.15. Beautiful. Kenny Lofton. Shout out Kenny Lofton with a little pop that year, 0.95 on the OPS. You move on through history there. In 1995, you got 6 guys with 1,000 OPS plus, and this is where things start taking off. You hit 1996, and Albert Bell and Jim Tomei are on a tear, but they are 2 of 15 players. Now we're up to 15 players in 1996 with a 1,000 OPS or higher. Albert Bell and Jim Tomei, teammates, both over 1,000. Very incredible. Albert Bell was ranked 10th in the league. Jim Tomei was ranked 5th in the league. And now we know we're inflated here with the steroids, with the juice, and this home run just brigade going on in the MLB. In 1996, you also had 2 beasts in Edgar Martinez and Alex Rodriguez, also both over 1,000 on the OPS, ranked number 6 and ranked number 8. Really incredible stuff. 2 of the great hitters of all time. Those 2 may be in the running for the best hitting teammates of all time. But let's see how we do here. And then another mainstay in this list here who was playing with just beasts, apparently, Larry Walker. Shout out Larry Walker. If you're about my age, you remember Larry Walker. In 97, he was the leader in the MLB in OPS, 1.17. His best teammate, Andres Galarraga, number 13. I'm going to start moving through this a little quicker because I think you get the idea now. In 1997, there were 10 guys with an OPS over 1,000. You get through some other guys like Mark McGwire, who was number 1 in 1998. He carried his teammate, who was much lower at 0.93. But because Mark McGwire's OPS was so high, it actually ranks them as one of the top hitting duos of all time. You go through a Moises Alou and Jeff Bagwell season, and then Larry Walker and Todd Helton, who get on this list a couple more times because they were just beasts. Larry Walker ranked number 1, Todd Helton number 13, right? You're starting to get the picture here. These are the best hitting duos of each season over the last 30 years. You see Rafael Palmeiro and Juan Gonzalez, 1.0, 0.98, fantastic. That's a combined over 2.0. That's wonderful stuff. Then you hit Barry Bonds in the year 2000, where 19 players had an OPS over 1,000. 19. Remember that number, 19. Okay, so in 2000, I'm saying this is the peak of hitters in the MLB, which makes Pedro Martinez just that more impressive, doesn't it? My Lord. 19 players with an OPS of 1,000 or more. Remember, there's only 3 right now in 2024. So Barry Bonds was ranked number 4 that year with a 1.1. Jeff Kent, shout out Jeff Kent, was ranked 16th with a 1,000 OPS, which is just ridiculous. Also in that year, you had 3 teammates with 1,000 or higher OPS, with Moises Alou, Jeff Bagwell, Richard Hidalgo, ranked 10th, 11th, and 13th. Very impressive. Alex Rodriguez and Edgar Martinez make the list again. Then you move on to 2001, and you see Barry Bonds with a 1.37, just ridiculous. His teammate was ranked 29th, his best teammate, and yet still, that is the best combined OPS for teammates that I have seen in the last 30 years. Barry Bonds and Rich Aurelio, best one of the last 30 years, but it's all because Barry Bonds was carrying with a 1.37, which is the second highest that you'll see in the last 30 years. Ridiculous. You move on to a couple of years, Larry Walker, Todd Helton, again, shout out them. Barry Bonds and Jeff Kent again, but Barry Bonds ranked number 1. Jeff Kent ranked number 21. Barry Bonds a 1.38. That's the second highest teammate duo OPS of the last 30 years. Again, Barry Bonds, 1.38 with Jeff Kent, 0.933. That's a combined 2.31. That's fantastic. That's the second highest in the last 30 years. But Barry Bonds doing the heavy lifting, Jeff Kent, 21st in the league. Another Larry Walker and Todd Helton, shout out them. Then you get Albert Pujols enters the chat, 2003. Him and Jim Edmonds, both over 1,000 OPS, ranked 2nd and 7th overall. Then you go to a ridiculous season for the Red Sox in 2003, where 4 players were in the top 16. You had Manny at 6, Trot Nixon at 9, David Ortiz at 10, Bill Miller at 16. Wow. If we're talking about foursomes, that's the best I've seen. 4 guys in the top 16 of OPS. That means that Boston Red Sox team in 2003 was driving the hell out of the baseball. And then here's another ridiculous one. Barry Bonds, 2004, when he walked 240 times or something like that. 1.4 OPS. His teammate, who was his best teammate, was ranked 57th in the league, and yet that's still the 3rd highest combined OPS for any teammates in the last 30 years. So 1, 2, and 3 are all because Barry Bonds is a ridiculous human being who took steroids and was unbelievable at baseball. Shout out Barry Bonds, screw Barry Bonds, whatever. It is what it is. The stats are the stats, and they're silly. Now you move on. 2004, Albert Pujols and Jim Edmonds again enter the chat. Now this time they have another teammate, Scott Rowland, who is also over 1,000 OPS, ranked 8th. So we had Pujols at 3, Edmonds at 4, Rowland at 8. Really great trio there, but we're looking for the best 2 hitting teammates that we've seen in my lifetime in the last 30 years in the steroid era, the whole 9. Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz enter the chat. Alex Rodriguez and Jason Giambi enter the chat. They're ranked 5 and 6 and 3 and 9 respectively. Then you get a great Manny, David Ortiz season, both over 1,000 OPS, ranked 4 and 5 together, which is very, very good. Remember that as well. Jim Thome back in the chat. Jermaine Dye, both over 1,000 for the White Sox in 2006. They're ranked 7th and 8th. Now, we're looking at, in the mid-2000s here, we're looking at 13 players with an OPS of 1,000. 9, 7, 9, 8, 5, 7. That's where we're at with how many players per year are hitting 1,000 or higher on the OPS. So then we hit 2009. Clearly, the steroids have worn off a little bit here. We don't have the same exact juice and energy that we've seen from an OPS perspective. You have Ryan Braun and Prince Fielder who entered the chat. They're a great tandem who show up on this list a couple times. Both of them are not over 1,000. Only one of them is. And you go on a whole run here from 2010 all the way down until 2018. 8 years, almost 9 years, actually. Wait, apologize, miscounted there. From 2006 all the way down to 2018, there was not a duo who both had over 1,000 OPS. So in 2006, you had Jim Thome and Jermaine Dye. And after that, you did not have a duo who were both over 1,000 until 2018. Okay, so that's 12 years of baseball where you couldn't get both of your best players over 1,000 OPS. And I could run through some of the names. I'll throw them out there. You got Victor Martinez and Miguel Cabrera. You got Miguel Cabrera and Prince Fielder. You got Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion. You got Paul Goldschmidt and David Peralta, which is a weird one. Josh Donaldson and Edwin Encarnacion, David Ortiz and Mookie Betts, Charlie Blackmon and Nolan Arenado. Nolan Arenado comes on this list a lot down the road, and he's never had an OPS over 1,000. Now you get to 2018, the Red Sox are cooking, and this might just be the gold standard of the best duo in hitting baseball for the last 30 years. Mookie Betts, JD Martinez, both over 1,000 OPS, ranked second and third in the entire MLB. And of course now, did Mookie Betts or JD Martinez have a better OPS than Barry Bonds? No. Did they have a better OPS than Mark McGwire's peak? No. Did they combine for a higher OPS than Barry Bonds and Jeff Kent? No, they did not. Did they do a better one than Todd Helton and Larry Walker? No, they did not. But remember, back then, 19 players with 1,000 OPS or higher, 13 players with 1,000 OPS or higher. In 2018, when Mookie Betts and JD Martinez were ranked second and third in OPS, combining for a 2.1, both over 1,000 OPS, there were only 4 players in the entire league who had 1,000 OPS or higher. And Mookie Betts was 2, JD Martinez was 1. Wow, that's incredible. So now you move on. Juan Soto and Trey Turner enter the chat. Freddie Freeman and Marcell Ozuna enter the chat. Ronald Acuna right there as well. And Freddie Freeman and Marcell Ozuna in 2020. Now we're looking at, and that was a shortened season. So, take that for what it's worth. Shortened season. They were both over 1,000. Freddie Freeman over 1.1. They were also ranked second and third. DJ LeMahieu and Luke Voigt, by the way, entered the chat in 2020, which is very funny. Nick Castellanos and Joey Votto. Votto's on this list a couple times. Another Arenado and Goldschmidt arrival here, ranked third and sixth together, even though Arenado had a .891. That's how much this league changed, right? Remember, 19 players in 2000 with 1,000 or higher OPS. In 2022, just 2 years ago, Paul Goldschmidt was ranked third with a .98, and Nolan Arenado was ranked sixth with a .89. There's only 2 players in the entire league in 2022 who had 1,000 OPS. In 2023, only 3 players with 1,000 OPS. None of them were teammates. You had Ronald Acuna with 1,000 OPS, ranked third. Matt Olson ranked fourth with a .993. And that brings us to 2024. Here we are. Aaron Judge, Juan Soto. Aaron Judge, a 1.1. Juan Soto, a 1.0. Only 3 players in the entire MLB with 1,000 OPS or higher. 2 of them are on the New York Yankees. One is Aaron Judge. One is Juan Soto. Aaron Judge is ranked first. Juan Soto is ranked second. So the point for this entire exercise, the point for this entire research project that I did earlier this week is because when I was looking at this Yankees team play baseball, and I'm watching Soto and Judge bat back to back, and watching them absolutely just destroy opposing teams and pitchers, game in, game out, playing ridiculous levels of baseball, it made me think, are these 2 of the best hitters to ever play together? And now, after doing the research, I say without a doubt that these are 2 of the best hitting teammates to ever step foot on a field together. It's not hyperbolic. You heard the numbers. You can only really compare yourself to your peers, right? Because if you put Aaron Judge and Juan Soto and their current statistics in the year 2000, they look a little bit more normal. Aaron Judge would be ranked around 5th or 6th, and Juan Soto would be ranked around 15th. That doesn't sound as impressive. But there were 19 players with 1,000 OPS. This year there's 3. The game has changed. And these 2 are standing above the rest by a long shot as the only 2 teammates currently to be in that top section. In fact, they're the only teammates who have 2, or not, that's not true. They're one of 2 teammates who are in the top 10, because you have Shohei and Freddie Freeman, who are ranked 4th and 10th, respectively. And they're number 1 and number 2, which means that amongst their peers, They are the two best hitters in baseball. They bat back to back, and they are putting their money where their mouth is as the two best hitting teammates that we've seen in a long, long time. Because if you want to say that Barry Bonds and insert any decent teammate he had were a better combo than Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, you'd be right. Technically, the best OPS by any teammates in the last 30 years is Barry Bonds and Rich Aurelia. The second is Barry Bonds and Jeff Kent. The third is Barry Bonds and Ray Durham. Those are the three best. So if you want to say that Barry Bonds plus anyone who's competent is the best hitting duo in the last 30 years, sure, you can say that. You'll be right technically. But Juan Soto and Aaron Judge together, combined, are the only pair of teammates in the last 30 years, and I assume a lot more than that, to be ranked number 1 and number 2 in OPS in the MLB. That's impressive stuff. And that is proof of concept as to why the Yankees are where they are right now. On top of their pitching, on top of their bullpen, which is just consistently ridiculous, this team has the two best hitters in baseball. And as long as those two guys are in the lineup, you know this offense is going to be awesome. It's how good they are. That's how much they stand above their peers. So I thought that was interesting. Shout out to some of the guys who consistently showed up on this list, though, man. Larry Walker, man, his numbers were stupid back in the late 90s, 2000s. My goodness. Nolan Arenado, also. The most appearances on this list, tied with David Ortiz. Yeah, Nolan Arenado. Never had an OPS over 1,000 in any of those seasons, but had a teammate good enough to be in the top 10 for him and the other teammate to combine to be the best teammates in the league. And even 2022 with the Cardinals and Paul Goldschmidt. David Ortiz, 5 appearances as well. Manny had 4. Larry Walker had 4. Jim Tomei and Barry Bonds had 4. A-Rod had 4. Pujols had 4. And then you get down to the threes, it starts to get a little bit more washed out there. But, Todd Helton, Prince Fielder, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Edgar Martinez. We're talking about the best hitters of all time, people. We're not just talking about the best teammates. We're talking about the best hitters. Like, just think about the best hitters. Alex Rodriguez, Manny Ramirez, like just pure mashers. I'm not talking about the guy who had the highest average, won the batting title. We're talking about driving the ball, hitting bombs, hitting for average, hitting for power, getting on base, being feared enough to get walked. Like, that's what being a great hitter is all about. And we understand that more today than we even did back then, right? Because like the whole OPS thing and the on-base percentage being as important as the average thing wasn't really talked about back in 1994. Wasn't talked about in 2001. It was your home runs and RBIs and your batting average. Like, that was it. That's all people cared about. That's why it's the Triple Crown, right? Miguel Cabrera is on this list a couple times. And some guys get screwed and don't have great teammates, right? Like, there are some guys who are out here just putting together great year after great year. Like Bryce Harper didn't make this list. He never had a teammate good enough to put him up there. That's crazy. Him and Juan Soto played together. They never put it together at the same exact time. Like, that's insane, right? You had like a guy, like if you see a catcher on here, Alex Rodriguez and Jorge Posada were on this list. Like, Joe Mauer had some years in the top 5 of OPS, which is crazy because he was such a contact hitter, but he never had a teammate who did as good as him, right? You also had like Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve recently. They went 3-4 in the league. And those are two just absolute monster hitters. Yordan Alvarez and Altuve, just fantastic hitters. And there's never been one to go 1-2 in the MLB. And if right now what Aaron Judge and Juan Soto are doing continues for the rest of the season, they end up being 1-2 in OPS, my God, that's insane. That's insane. And I'm not even going to bring up all this other crap that Yankee fans, Met fans all bring up about signing Soto and paying him and what he's going to make. I don't care. And here in New York, we get to watch Juan Soto play baseball and Aaron Judge play baseball together every day. It's incredible. You watch these guys take at bats, and it's a work of art. They hit for power. They have patience. They have 2 of the best eyes in baseball. They can both steal bags and play decent defense. Judge is probably better than Soto at defense. And they mash. It's incredible. It really is. All right, Subway Sports Talk. That's all we got. Fun times doing some baseball reference digging. My God, it was really cool though, man. Some of those stats from the 2000s, ridiculous, like laughable, actually. Like you look at some of it and you're just like, excuse me, what are you talking about here? Like, who did what now? Somebody had a 1.4 OPS. That's crazy. We only have 3 guys with 1,000 right now. Like, that's how much the game has changed, but that's why it's still so impressive that Judge and Soto are doing what they do. All right, Subway Sports Talk. That's all we got. Pete Kennedy, right here on Subway Sports Talk, at Subway Sports Talk for all the socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, YouTube, Subway Sports Talk, notification bell, subscribe. Shout out to y'all for listening as always. We'll be back. I didn't do a full NBA Finals thing. I feel like it's pretty simple. Celtics were the best team all year, and they won the finals. They got a little bit of an easier path than your average finals winner, but I don't think that's anything to lessen what they did. They were the best team the entire time, and they won against everybody the whole time. Jason Tatum, really good. Jaylen Brown, really good. That's it. All right, Subway Sports Talk. Talk to you soon. Cheers.